Welcome to the 35th edition of Stump the Pastor. Our question today comes from Tammy in Birmingham, and she asks, how is the Queen of Sheba connected to the wood that was used for the cross? Well, I have to tell you, this is one question that I had never ever considered before it was asked, so I had to do some digging on this one. Now, just a little background for those of you that don't know the story of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. The story actually appears twice in the Older Testament. Once in 1 Kings 10 and in 2 Chronicles 9. Now, it is basically the same story, except some small details get changed. For example, both stories tell us that the Queen of Sheba was impressed by the wooden beams in the royal palace of King Solomon. But the beams that impressed the queen so much were used for ceiling beams in 1 Kings and for steps in 2 Chronicles. Not sure why. The Queen of Sheba, though, becomes an important character all through the area. She appears in stories in the Quran, in the Jewish Midrash, in Kabbalistic writings, and even in Christian mystical works. So the queen made an impression that has lasted for centuries, and yet we really don't know much about her. In fact, we don't even really know where Sheba is. So when we have such little knowledge about someone, human nature tends to fill in the gap with stories. And so there are a lot of stories about the Queen of Sheba. For example, one story says that King Solomon and the Queen have a tryst on their visit together, which produces a son. And this son later returns to visit King Solomon, who is said to have welcomed him. But the son desires to return to Ethiopia, which is one of the places thought to be Sheba. And the son takes with him the Ark of the Covenant. So that's why the Ark still resides in the courtyards of St. Mary's and an Ethiopian church in Aksum. Another story says that the Queen of Sheba had really hairy legs. Now, we're not talking about lots of hair like humans have. We're talking about looking like a goat leg kind of hair. Beauty, I guess, is in the eye of the beholder. So there is no connection I could find between the Queen of Sheba and the cross. But with so many stories about her, it's easy to see how those kind of connections might have been made. I mean, the queen was impressed with Solomon's wooden beams. And the remnants of the Ark of the Covenant somehow end up in Ethiopia. The cross of Jesus was made by wood that cathedrals around the world claim to have a splinter from. Plus, a story began circulating in some circles that after the Queen of Sheba admired Solomon's wood, that she was said to have worshipped it and told Solomon that the Savior of the world would hang from the tree from which those beams came. Now, I could not find evidence for this particular story circulating, but that is a great example of how important the art of storytelling is as part of the fabric of faith traditions. You see, we all are part of the story. And ancient people loved to tell stories that included them or their heroes or their leaders. Now, the main difference was for ancient people, there was no claim that the stories were true, that is, in a factual sense, because that wasn't the point. Stories were ways that we build connections between our lives and the lives of our saints, our heroes, or those that we revere. But I have to tell you that I am a bit perplexed about how the story of an ancient queen and the story of the cross in a less ancient time got connected. Perhaps some of you have some missing pieces that I haven't yet found. If so, I encourage you to tell me about them, and I'll even feature your insights in an upcoming session of Stump the Pastor. So I look forward to hearing from you. See you next time on Stump the Pastor. Well, there you go, Tammy. Thank you for the question. And those of you that know more about the Queen of Sheba than I do, let me hear from you, and we'll feature you on a Stump the Pastor. Until next time, if you've got questions that you want to ask, send them to me. My email address is on the bottom of your screen. See you next time.